بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Okay, so today our topic is uh, Imam al-Ghazzali. So we've been discussing the series of scholars of Islamic economic thought. So we have seen a couple of scholars, alhamdulillah, so far for a couple of weeks. So now we are going to see one of the quite famous, also the biggest, one of um, the biggest scholar of all time. I think most of you already familiar with this Imam. This is Imam al-Ghazali, Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Um, I think his magnum opus, I think most of you know, Ihya Ulum. It has a couple of, it has varieties of, and then many dimensions it holds, still holds to to benefit the entire ummah, because it was actually one of the great work has been done so far. It is not about one aspect of deen. It talks about the many, that's what I said, dimensions, because it is basically ulumuddin, which is actually ihya ulumuddin, meaning to say reviving the knowledge of deen. Entire, it talks about everything. So when it talks about everything, so the work cannot exclude the economic thought, one of the most important aspect of deen. I think we're gonna talk about many many of his contribution, especially in Ihya Ulumuddin. There are also some other work has been done. Most probably we might need a longer session to discuss everything, but in this short session, I think we will discuss whatever his contribution that he has done in Ihya Ulumuddin. All right, so okay, let's move. Um, this is Sheikh Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. I think most of you know his name. He is an 11th century Arab scholar, acclaimed as the greatest and the most important thinker of medieval Islam. He is one of the philosopher as well. I think if I can relate something to you, I hope you still remember during our couple of our beginning classes sessions. I took some time to discuss what exactly economic thought, uh, starting from Greek philosophy. So if you remember, I told you most of the time the current economic thought, the modern economic thought, that as a discipline, that what we call economic thought, it derives from that Greek philosophy. This is what most of the modern economists they agree. But what we are trying to prove the point that it didn't only come through directly come from the the Greek philosophy, but it has something to do. There's a great contribution forwarded by Muslim scholars. So I think that is what exactly the most important gap that every one of us should concentrate, because it was in Greek. Then what they talk about is a Greek philosophy, and then the scholasticism. Then from the scholasticism, the modern economic thought was born. This is what the idea. But there is something in between a Greek philosophy and a scholasticism, because the scholastic scholars, there were many, like for example, Thomas Augustine. The scholastic scholars, they were not very familiar with Greek works, the Greek, um, writings and all. Mostly it was translated later into Latin, some other languages, but but the great contribution here, what we need to remember is how it's been translated into Latin and other languages. It was translated not directly from Greek, it was translated through Arabic language. So now when we talk about Arabic language, so I think Muslim philosophers, the Arabic scholars will come into picture. Not only they translated the work, because that was not not their work only to translate, but they learned those books, those work of Greek philosophers, that because they wanted to do some analysis, and they wanted to bring those things, arguments and debates, so that they started doing discussions and lot of findings from those, especially when they talk about aqidah, mutakallimin, right? We talk about ilm al-kalam. So these are the references, they took, and then they discuss further. There are a lot of things that they have done. So you know about Ibn Rushd, Arros, or Ibn Sina, Avicenna. So these are the scholars are there, but Imam Ghazali is also one of them, who has done a lot of work, who read all this Greek philosophy and then convert into translated into Arabic. And when he translated, he didn't translate, by the way. He learned and then he transmitted. Yeah, he transcribed. He took everything in it, and then he reflected in his writing. So I think mostly when he talk about moral philosophy of economic thought, I think mostly he learned those moral philosophy from Greek philosophy. At the same time, he applied the Islamic philosophy, so that it covers, it completes the task. Yeah, so I think I just want to remind you what we've been discussing earlier, so that you can relate yourself for the entire session. So I think, of course, his writing, as those of European scholastic and others of his era, emphasized the holistic intellectual approach. Yeah, this is what I've been talking to you. Holistic intellectual approach. Ghazali's economics is anchored on five necessary Sharia mandated foundations. I think you know all these five fundamentals, which we call the Ruriya: religion, life, family, property, and intellectual. He focuses on the economic aspects of maslaha, because social utility. Later, we also going to discuss social cause. There are so many other discussions as well, distinguishing between necessities, comforts, and luxuries. Subsistence living is inadequate, but wealth too has its danger. So I think these are the philosophy. I think we are going to talk about, because most of the Imam Ghazali's writings on based on ethical normative perspective. We don't see mostly the positive perspective, the positive economics. We talk about, I mean, mostly he talks on ethical normative economic. Yeah. So I think mostly you can see all these. He discussed about poverty, he discussed about wealth, he discussed about exchange, production, money role. Yeah, he talks about the counterfeit of money, right? He talks about the hoarding, how deeply hoarding must be prohibited in order to safeguard the economic aspect of life. These are the things he talks about. Interest, why usuri, how, whether money is commodity, whether money is could it be end to your need, or it is the medium of your need. Yeah, so these are the things he talks about. He also talks about the carpenters and farmers, each other, how they can help each other, like later Adam Smith also talks about the similar thing. So whatever that today's modern economics talks about, started talking from 17th century. Uh, he taught everything in 10th and 11th century. So that is what 600 and 700 years ago he started um, forming. He started, founding all these thoughts. I think that is what I think we were going to talk about. So we are going to talk about his life as well, and then we will talk about his work, and then what are the work so far he has done. Then we will discuss his economic thought one by one. Yeah, so I think that is the summary of the class. Okay, his life. Of course, I think if you remember last time when I talked to you about Nizam al-Mulk at-Tusi, right? So Nizam al-Mulk, when he started the syllabus of Nizamiah. By the way, this is I would like to tell you, those people comes from especially the subcontinent and Southeast Asia and all these region. We know that how Pondo, yeah, Pondo means the madrasa, the system, the institute of madrasa, the contribution of madrasa and Pondo, how important is in the society today and past and future, so past, present, and future. Because you see, we call people like ustaz or ulama, right? Those people are helping us, understand the Sharia, the fiqh, the tafsir of the Quran, the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the fiqh of the scholars and all, right? So all those ilm that we call it comes from this kind of institute like madrasa and ponjo. They have the syllabus. They follow everybody. They follow. There are some sort of differences are there, but basically speaking, everybody following. Most of them following one syllabus, one curriculum. So what is that curriculum called? It's called Nizamiah, right? Nizami syllabus, they call it. Nizami curriculum. So now I don't have to tell you why I call Nizami, because it's quite obvious. It is started by Nizam al-Mulk Tusi. That's the reason why it is called Nizami. Just imagine, just imagine this person, subhanallah, he started how many years ago, centuries ago, and people still following his curriculum by his name. And he is the person who started this madrasa kind of institute where Imam Ghazali was assigned as a chair for theology. He was a chair of theology. Just imagine. So Nizam al-Mulk Tusi uh, got a huge big hand on this. It continues to be. So I think this kind of, this kind of thought and process, this kind of contribution in society, just imagine how it multiplies when it comes to rewards. Yeah, I think each one of us should think like this. Is there something that I can do after my death? The impact of those things still continues, and then that should be the real profit, isn't it? We talks about profit most of the time in our faculty. We talks about loss. We talk about interest and ushuri. We talk about all those problems and issues in management and as well as in finance, right? So now all those issues, all those discussion that we are doing, it based on this dunya, right? Yeah, because that is necessary, because as we live in this world, I think it is necessary that we should take care of those problems, and we should find solutions to solve those issues. Yeah, but what about the afterlife? Because as a Muslim, we believe in afterlife. وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. So that is the first couple of verses in Surah Al-Baqarah. So there is no Iman, there is no Islam if there is no Akhirah, right? So everything that we are doing, al-qayyisu man dana nafsahu lima amila ba'da al-maut. So the excellent, the genius, who is the genius? The genius, the one who prepared for his next life. This is what Prophet ﷺ said. So now, just imagine, as far as we learn all this, there should be an impact on us. We talk about the material profit. Alhamdulillah, we're doing all these things, but what about the hereafter profit? Is there any work that I concentrate and I make it run, and I make sure it runs after my death, and then I get the reward for this, that kind of institute? Yeah, this is kind of amazing thing we call a sadaqah jariyah. So this one of the example of Nizam al-Mulk. Um, this man, mashallah, started this kind of Pondo madrasa and those things. Today, you see, today, if we have this university of Islamic University Malaysia, subhanallah, this is the great ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, blessings of Allah, because where we talk everything in this construction of the university, and the language that we are using, the what I mean by language is not just English and Arabic, the language, the medium of talking, the way that we discuss. I think even Western people, non-Muslim people also can understand. So that is amazing. But we should not forget the basis of this university. It because of the ulama that they came from those kind of Pondo, madrasa, those kind of institute, right? Ulama, salaf, al khalaf. So these are the people who had this thought, and then they discuss, and then today, subhanallah, these kind of universities exist. Yeah, so that is what I would like to tell you here. Imam Ghazali started as a teacher. He was a chair of theology during the Nizam al-Mulk Tusi, but he was, of course, he was there for quite some time. Then he started traveling. He went for Hajj, and then he went some other places. Wherever he go, he been to many countries those days, and then wherever he go and he teach. Yeah, he started writing and all. So that is what his you can see here. He went for his own learning, like higher studies, education. He traveled to Jurjan, Naisabur, Baghdad, those places. Yes. Yeah, so he, wherever he went, he was of course wanted to do self purification, devotion to Allah. Yes, he was a chair theology of Nizamiah College at Baghdad in 1091 at the age of 34. Can you believe? Right? He was the chair at age 34. Yeah, and then he went for performing Hajj, and then he had extensively mastered and standard curriculum of Islamic higher education in scriptures and also jurisprudence. He spent many years in, especially 10 years in Sham, Syria, Palestine, Arab countries, Baghdad, Iraq, and Misr, Egypt. Yeah. Okay, so these are the thing about his life. Yeah, and then we talk about his work. His work is actually mostly in ethics, logic, dialectics, theology, jurisprudence, tasawwuf, Sufism, tafsir, the Quranic commentary, hadith, tradition of the Prophet ﷺ, and also most importantly kalam, mostly his work on kalam. Ghazali mixed philosophical, religious, ethical, sociological, and economic consideration into his writing. So this is what actually makes him different from others, because when he talk about something, he doesn't only bring the narrations of his scholars to his work. He put his thought, which is actually philosophical thought. I think that is amazing. He tried to cover complete his writing with the philosophical thought. Yeah. Okay. These are the some of his major works. التبر المبسوق sorry التبر المسبوق في نصيحة الملوك. Yeah, originally was in Persian, then later translated into English as well. Book of Counsel for Kings, then Ihya Ulum, you know all this, you know this book. Al-Iqtisad fi Jihad. Okay, don't get the idea of the word al-iqtisad, because in Arabic, al-iqtisad, today what we know the meaning of the modern translation of al-iqtisad means economics. But those days, Al-iqtisad, the literal meaning of al-iqtisad is actually, being balanced. That's kind of mean. It has the al-iqtisad fil i'tiqad means the golden mean in faith. It's a book of kalam, by the way. It is not actually a book of economics. Then we have Al-Mustasfa. Subhanallah, this is the book of Ilm Usul, knowledge of the rules of jurisprudence. Amazing book. Mizan al-Amal, the criterion of logic and action. Al-Munqiz min al-Dalal, deliverance from error. It is a kind of debate, argument of kalam. Yeah. Okay. So now his economic ideas. I think before that, let me also tell you, it must be acknowledged for the sake of intellectual honesty that Imam al-Ghazzali himself deeply influenced, as I told you earlier in the beginning of the semester, deeply influenced by the writing of such Greek philosophers as Plato, Aristotle, and also his logic. Yeah, because he learned the language and then he learned their writing. Okay, it was not like someone has already translated and then he actually learned the language and then he brought the idea to his book. All right, so economic ideas, economic philosophy, this is what actually today's the most important session. Of course, as I told you earlier, mostly his Islamic economic thought in his prosper philosophical perspective. Yeah, that's the thing. Most of the time, his economic pursuit, what he say actually, the economic achievement, whatever that you achieve economically, is a means to the end. It's is a means to the end. It is not an end in itself. So this is the most important point he always try to prove. It is not what exactly you are should be thing that you achieved because you earned something. It is something that the medium of earning the most important achievement, which is actually hereafter, right? So this is on this basis only he discuss everything. He doesn't discuss only on the basis of materialistic world. He talks about everything. That's why, as I told you, he completes his teachings with this philosophy of earning. You want to earn, no problem. You want to spend no problem. But on what basis? It has to help you to achieve something in hereafter. It should not only help you to achieve something, for example, a good house, a good family, good vehicle, good land and prosperity. It is not only the material achievement. It has to help you to so that's what, like last time I was telling you, there is nothing wrong um, if you want to build a great house, a five-star hotel, or there is nothing wrong in building a kind of vehicle like Ferrari, right? There's nothing wrong in building those kind of the most expensive things. There's nothing wrong. As a Muslim, we should be doing it. But the question here is it my achievement stop once I build all these five-star, whether it is the buildings or cars or technology whatsoever, whether it is the hardware or software, but the question still remains, is it going to be the end of the world? Is it only for the purpose of this world or for the next world, right? So if I am able to build something amazing for hereafter, at the same time I'm building this for this world, right? If I'm building the highest building, the tallest building in the world, there is nothing wrong in building the tallest building, right? In this world, there is nothing wrong. But the question still remains, am I also building, through building this highest building of the world, am I building something for the hereafter? Right? So there are many ways, I can convert those things into good, and then I can build the even taller than what I build in the world, right? So I'm building it, I'm putting it in the right way, I'm using it for the right purpose, and people using it for the right purpose, people are enjoying with that building, then they are they are praying for me, right? So there is a sadaqah jariyah going on with that building. There is a permitted things are going on, the prohibited things are not there. There are there is gonna be a very good center for Muslims to come and learn economics and then apply Islamic economics. Yeah, if these are the factors, if these factors found in that the tallest building in the world, then you actually building the tallest building for the akhirah, right? So if I'm building a software technology, that technology is not only helping me for this world, but I'm using it and I'm giving it to people so that the people can use it, and then can learn Islamic studies, can understand for the reality of this life, and then through those technology, they can actually can do something better, and and share the prosperity among the people, and help the people in a right way, in the right amount of help, and then they can also they can also teach others how whatever they learn. If that technology is helping in this manner, then you are not only building the technology for this world, you are also building the technology for the hereafter. Yeah, so that is what this is how I think the philosophical idea of Imam Ghazali he talks about everywhere. So he also said, on this philosophical context, he said there are three groups of economic agent. Okay, on the same meaning what I said just now, he said the first economic agent is the one who completely involved, occupy themselves fully, so that they forgot their place in akhirah, right? This is the first one. They are completely ruined, even though they are billionaires, even though they got many awards, but in the akhirah they are getting nothing, they've been ruined. The second economic agent, those whose concern for the hereafter, keep them away from economic activities. This is the other end. They don't do anything in the economic activities, their concern is only hereafter. All right. They in a way they look like, in a way they are actually successful people. They are actually because they don't involve in the problem. But the third economic agent is most important. The third type of economic agent, those who get involved in economic activities for the hereafter, for the purpose of hereafter, but they are also involving for this world as well. They are the nearest to the straight path, the middle way, right? The Siratul Mustaqim. They are the right people doing the right thing, doing the economic activities here, but for the purpose of the hereafter. According to Al-Ghazali, this is what actually the philosophical context of economic agent. Also, he talks many things the same manner in fi fadl al-kasb wal has alayhi, because he there these are the I will be also giving you the fasl, the chapter's name, whatever the chapters available in Ihya Ulumuddin, I will be giving you the names as well. So these are the thing being discussed in fi fadl al-kasb wal has alayhi. He talk about the attributes, the he talks about the merit on earning, the merits on earning. Also, he talks about the incentives. What are the incentives when you do earnings? Yeah. All right. So I think this is what I discussed just now, the middle way, the three kind of groups. Yeah. All right. Okay. So then we need to learn about place and benefit of economic activity. Um, but basically, there are a couple of points. Imam Ghazali talks about Islamic personalities. Yeah, when he talk about there are a few points he talks about. First of all, Allah has, because why you have to do. Because he talks about the economic activities in the manner of Islamic personality. meaning to say that what are the reason why you are supposed to be involving in this kind of economic activities. First of all, Allah has given you these resources. You can see everywhere, it is quite obvious. You can see there is ocean, there is a forest, there is rivers, and then minerals and everything. Crops are there. You just need to work on it. It comes out. There are lots and lots of ni'mah resources available. So that is the first purpose why you should be involving in economic activity. It's because of the resources. The second one is actually you should be free from the dependence on others. You cannot actually go and beg to somebody for sustenance. You have to do on your own. So you should be, because Allah doesn't want one person ask to another person. Allah has given you plenty of resources. All you need to do, work hard and then get it, so that you don't ask people. And then the last one is actually, of course, Islamically it is permitted and desirable, because there are so many mubah. We talk about permitted things, and all these earnings are permitted things. For that reason, for that purpose, everyone should involve in economic activities, right? And then what about the the knowledge of economics, whether it is necessary to learn or not. So he talks about the need for the knowledge of Islamic economics. All right. So he talks about talab al-ilmi faridatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslima. Okay, we know this. Every Muslim, and male and female, should acquire knowledge. All right. But what about knowing the knowledge in the field of economics? He says the learning knowledge in the field of economics is wajib. You see, he went to the extent he's saying it is wajib, compulsory on every Muslim. In fact, this is one of the practice of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu. He used to say he should not do business in your market who does not have its knowledge, right? So whoever goes to market, they should know how market. Even later, I think you will be seeing Ghazali talks about the counterfeit of currencies. So he says that it is quite important that you learn. You should have the knowledge of on money, how it works. Like today we talk about money and banking, we talk about money time value, right? All these things, he said it is compulsory for everybody to learn. Whether you want to, you should know about the currencies today. For example, we have the different kind of exchange, the rates, the countries. It has differences, right? It has a up and low, up and rise. The differences are in the digits. Supposedly we should know this, how much one is equal to another one. So this kind of knowledge, it is actually compulsory for every Muslim. This is what Imam Ghazali says, right? Then we talk about the trade. Yes, of course, so with this regard, he talks about in his book, is a particular chapter. He talks about trade and commerce. He talks about interest usury. He talks about the forward buying. He talks about renting, musharaka, like for example partnership, mudaraba, sleeping partnership, for profit sharing. So he discussed all these aspects. When it comes to trading, I think he talks about the arkan. I think if you remember, you learned this in the fiqh for economist one. I think you talk about the pillars of contract. There are three pillars of contract, right? Which is expression. The parties must be legal. They should have legal capacity, active capacity, right? And then the number three is actually object and subject matter of which is actually we call it mobia. We call it the thing that you are going to sell. I think we discussed all these. I think somehow Imam Ghazali also bringing all these arkan, all these conditions in those contract in his own way. There are few numbers are different, but overall it is actually the same thing. he talks about three elements in arkan, and then he talks about six conditions for a mabi', which is the exchange item of exchange. For example, the subject matter, the one you are selling, they should have a six conditions. This is all actually most probably I think you learn from fiqh classes. Yeah, these are the things. You see the six conditions of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The item of exchange should not be impure. It should be exchanged, should be useful. The seller should be owner of the item of sale. The item of sale must be transferable to Sharia in approved manner. The item of, so all these things you already learned from fiqh classes. I think you can actually go through this slide if necessary. All right. Okay. What about the social cost that I told you? Let us talk about the social cost and oppression that he talks. There is a title, في بيان العدل واجتناب الظلم في المعاملة. See, there's a very nice topic. He talks about this analysis of social cost in economic activities. So he says في بيان العدل واجتناب الظلم في المعاملة. How do you avoid zulm and also bring the justice in your muamala, right? So he talks about as an economic agent, everyone should keep justice, adl, to refrain from activities of zulum, right? Zulum is actually opposite of adl. He says that there are two categories. The first one is the activity that causes harm to the public in general, right? Remember this, public harm, right? The activities that causes harm to the public in general. The second one is actually the action that affects the second party, right? The one you are doing, the party also having a source of effect. So now maybe the party, sometimes the party that you are selling, he might be happy, but what you are selling, how you are selling, is the harm for the entire society. Right. So he talks about in this, he talks about in this very amazing perspective. I'm telling you, for example, can I sell tobacco to someone, but he is not smoking, right? So now the person is not smoking, but he just buy tobacco from me so that he can sell that tobacco to some company, the company that makes a cigarette. So now, as a person, it is actually quite pleasing to me because I'm just taking the tobacco and passing to somebody. I'm not using the tobacco, isn't it? So now, as a party, he actually gains from me because I'm selling the tobacco and he is the party. He must be happy with me because he is going to gain from me. But later that party is going to sell the tobacco to a big company. That big company is going to make the cigarette. So now that cigarette is a social cost for the society. So now see the perspective. He says, even though it is quite good with the party, but if it is not good with the social, if it is not good for the society, then that is not the right kind of economic activity, right? And then he talks about counterfeit of money. Amazing, I tell you, he talks about the money, the currency, because don't think that only today we have this counterfeit, the duplicate money. Right, it is actually those days also they had this kind of issues, big issues like dirham and dinar. It looks like from outside it looks like dirham and dinar, but it is inside there is not enough gold, not enough silver in it, right? There are so many counterfeit dirhams and dinars those days. So he talks about it, how to deal with the counterfeit money. How do you deal with counterfeit money? He says, first of all, if you receive any forged money, first of all, he says, throw that money. Do not use it. Do not give it to somebody. So he said, because the reason he says, you destroy that money, because that money is of course useless, and you keep that money. There's a possibility someone might take it and use it, and then it is going to be spreading all over the society, and later the society will have problem. This is what happened today. the this is called like chonto, whatever we have in the samples, right? People are supplying, these kind of things, and then today it's been mixed. Some places like some country, it is a big huge problem. They don't differentiate between the original currency and the counterfeit, right? So he says that first of all you throw that money. Second of all, the knowledge of money is compulsory on you. You must know the money, the currency, which money is the right money, original. You should learn the technique as well if you are the doing business. Number three, he says, if someone accept that kind of money, he will become the sinner. He is actually coming up with sin. He is actually doing something wrong. Yeah. Fourth, he says that if one receives forged money to destroy it, he qualifies for the Prophet ﷺ's prayer. And if someone destroy that kind of money, he is actually getting the prayers of Prophet ﷺ, because Prophet ﷺ prayed for him. On the other hand, if you accept it, then it is very, very bad. Especially he is actually bringing the action of the devil. Yeah. Fifth, he says that that one is different thing. Number five is actually different. He says whether the money is the used, if the money is pure gold, or if the money is mixed. Sometimes dinar not necessarily 100% gold, because maybe at the beginning it was completely gold, but later there was a mixing of copper and gold. Yeah, because you see, gold itself cannot be stronger unless you add some copper. So how many amount of copper and gold must be mixed? These are the knowledge is very, very important. All right. Then he talks about function of money and the theory of exchange. Amazing. He says there is a kitab, one of the, of course, all these I'm talking to you is about Ihya Ulumuddin, but inside Ihya Ulumuddin, it's a huge book, by the way. 5, 6 volumes are there. Differences publications are there. There are some 3 volumes, there are some 5, there are some 6 volumes. All right. So this is the book we are talking about, but there are so many chapters. One of the chapter is Kitab as-Sabr and Shukur. In this chapter, he talks about the rational and wisdom of having money, right? He talks about problems of barter exchange. He talks about the role of money in commodity exchange, because no one can expect this comes under Kitab al-Sabr and Shukr, because Kitab al-Sabr and Shukr is obviously Sabr, patience. Shukr is gratitude. But he talks about, look, he talks about the role of money in commodity exchange. He talks about the circulation of money as against its hoarding, right? And and whether money may be treated as a commodity, whether the commodification of money, he talks about it, right? So according to Imam Ghazali, yes, money could be a medium of exchange, as a measuring relations, right? The most important thing that he wanted to emphasize on medium of exchange, because money should not become the end of need. This is the most important thing he says. That's the reason why he talks about he talks about the hoarding, which I comes in a while. Of course he agree with the medium of exchange, which is actually measuring relations. Yeah. As a unit of value, yeah, he agree with the unit of value and medium of exchange. But the what we call it, the other entity, which is actually storing value, the storing value is something that debatable with Imam al-Ghazali, because he doesn't want to go with the commodification of money, but at the same time he agree with the medium. That's because of the that's because of the most important reason why, because the money should be circulated, should not be hoarding. Because if you start hoarding the money, the economic activity will be abused, right? So when it comes to circulation of money, so he gives amazing example which really surprised me. He said that money should be circulated, money cannot be kept. He gave an example. He said the objective of alphabets is to construct words and sentences and not the alphabets in themselves. So what about, let's say we talk about alif ba ta sa, that's about a b c d e f g h i j k l m. So if we have 26 letters in alphabets, what is the purpose of learning alphabets? It is not to keep it as alphabets. The purpose of learning alphabets to mix it and use it so that you can come up with a new word, you can come up with the new sentences, right? So you don't keep the alphabets as it is, you take it out, you mixed it. You cannot say how can I say after a should be b, after, no, we cannot say that. A b c d is there, but there must be purpose. The purpose is you mix it so that you make a new word and you create a new language. And today you see billions and billions of people are talking different languages because they didn't keep alphabet as alphabet. The same thing, he comes with the money. You must not keep money as money. Amazing example. He say you have money, you should have it in different, you should have it in the different forms so that it can be helpful for everybody and it should be circulated. That's the reason why he is totally against of hoarding the money. He says there are two types of hoarding the money: money itself, or you made of gold and silver, you convert it. So both of them is not correct according to him. And he says earning interest makes money an end of objective. You see, he said money cannot be end objective. Money can be only medium to receive the objectives, to go through the objectives. So he says if anyone uses money for interest, then obviously money has become the commodity. That's the reason why they are making the interest, the usuri, the riba. So these are the discussions all, mashallah. Imam Ghazali started it, and today we are talking about entirely in the department. We talk about all this in the faculty. It all started from Imam Ghazali, right? The analysis of money is most important with him. The functions of money, he talks about it, right? He talks about consider money. He say he does not consider money as an exchangeable commodity, and presents this as a rationale of the for the prohibition of interest. Yeah, that's important. Then he talks about markets and marketing, necessary marketing functions, including when he talks about the market, he talks about the transportation and storage, and he talks about the meeting place, because he says that carpenters and farmers cannot be in one place. Carpenters and farmers should come and they have to do work in different places, but they should come and meet in market so that they can actually exchange things, because Allah has made like that. Because you have a skill, you do one thing, I have a skill, I do one thing, and then later I exchange my value to your value. That's the reason why we say during the contract, the most important thing that what you are doing during the contract is exchanging core values, because you have something which you are giving a value, I have something which I'm giving a value. At the same time, you want what I have and I want what you have, so we are exchanging core values based on mutual consent. Yeah, this is the most important thing, the mutual consent. So Imam Ghazali is the one who talked about all these transport necessities of transport industry, transport operators, including the animals to carry goods and everything. Today we can say all this truck and all these containers and everything. He talked about it, and he talked about this farmer carpenter example, right? See, the farmer carpenter, he talks about in his bab, in his kitab, entirely about this, and which has later gave an impact to Adam Smith, so that he talked about butcher and baker. This butcher and baker illustration of Adam Smith actually came centuries later than Imam al-Ghazzali, right? Okay, so this is what he talks about the market price and profits. right? All this is here. You can just go through the reading, all right? And then he talks about the economic value, sorry, economics and Islamic values, right? He talks about the productions. He talks about there is a a Quranic verse. You know, I think most of us we know when it comes to Islamic values in economics, we talk about this verse "La tansa fi dunya nasibaka min al akhirah." But according to Imam Ghazali, he has a slightly different different translation. He said, "Do not forget." In the world a share from it for akhirah. He says that la tansa fi dunya nasibaka, which means that you do not forget your share in this world. Of course you should take your world, your share, but you should be thinking you are taking that share for the purpose of akhirah, right? I discussed earlier with you, this is what the philosophy of Imam al-Ghazali, right? And then he talks about mostly he talks about the spirit of Islam. He talks about the so when it comes to spirit of Islam, he is not, he is actually against of, you know, the hila, which we today we call sharia as a device, which is actually, you know, sometimes it looks like outside there are some tricks, these kind of tricks that actually Imam Ghazali is not okay with it. He against of these kind of tricks. He talks about zakah, where he talks about you know, kitab asrarul zakah, the book of the mysteries of zakah. He talks about the 5 conditions of zakah. I think the zakah and all, I think most of you know already, so I just go with the supervision of economic activities, right? The supervision of the economic activities is actually you know, he talked about one kitab, which is actually kitab al-amr bil ma'ruf wa an-nahi anil munkar. This is where he talks about al-muhtasib, which is actually al-hisba, we call it, the supervising officer. Especially he talks about the practice of concealing defects may be quite dangerous, particularly when it comes to you know, especially when it comes to medicine, foodstuff, transportations and all. The practice is actually very difficult. So he says that people, or he says that there must be a system which actually can guide, can govern, can give governance of you know, of people how they are doing. If there is no governance of people how they are doing, then it will be quite difficult for people to to have the benefits. Otherwise people will be doing their own, and then they will not have been, they be not guided. So for this there must be an institution of hisba should be started, so that some sort of malpractices like cheating in weight and measurement can be avoided, right? This is what actually Imam Ghazali talks about in his book. He also talks about the wastages. He talks about people should not waste. Expenditure patterns must be corrected. The spending behavior must be corrected. Yeah, he talks about al-ida'a. Ida'a means wasting, destroying, and then al-israf, extravagance. He also brings a lot of Quranic verses to support his idea, and then he talks about the poverty as well. And then he talks about he said there is a faqr mutlaq. There is a book in his kitab Ihya Ulum. There is a book called Bab al-Faqr wa Zuhud, book of poverty and asceticism. He talks about 2 types of poverty. One is the relation with the material need, the other one is relation with the spiritual need. So he said both of them, someone might be rich in this world, but spiritually he is poor, right? Someone is spiritually is rich, but materially he is poor. So he talks about all those things, and then he talks about the consumer behavior. He talks about the especially the consumer behavior. He talks about the Yeah, first of all, consumption is not for the own sake. Whatever we consume is we should have the intention that we are actually pleasing Allah, pleasing the character. Second of all, whatever we consume, it must be something that permitted, allowed, acceptable. Yeah. And then number three, whatever we consume, it must be pure. It cannot be kulu min tayyibati ma razaqnakum, right? Tayyibat, it has to be something tayyib. And then number four, he says there must be moderation, whatever that we are consuming, right? And then there shouldn't be israf, there shouldn't be ida'a, israf, those things must be there, so there should be moderation. And then number fifth is actually we should be modest. The behavior during consumption should be modest as revealed in the Islamic norms and values. So this is actually where Imam Ghazali is a master of it, being modest. You can see actually there is a separate book, Kitab Adab al-Akal. Kitab Adab al-Akal. He talks about the Islamic norms of eating. See, even this is the adab, is actually how do you sit down, how do you eat, what are the things you must consider when you are eating, how do you drink, how do you sleep. Yeah, these are the, this is where actually he has done very amazing work. I think we can actually talk about all this. Okay, so to conclude all this, I think I would say to conclude all these, I think this is consumer behavior. We talked about it, poverty. We talked about it, and there are a couple of other slides. I hope there are a lot of slides. I cannot actually read each and everything, but I gave you the summary of all the slides. Hopefully, you can actually read the slides and then come and get back to me if you don't understand something. All right. Then, to conclude the remarks, let me just give you that. Of course, he talks about the diversification of activities, right? He talks about the inter-industry division of labor, concept of social cause, the externalities, right? He discussed on the functions of money exchange, emergency of market. He talks about, most importantly, the moral values in economic pursuit. I think to do this, I think he continues to provide much motivations. I mean, he continues to provide motivation towards balanced economic behavior, balanced economic behavior, and normative awakening in economic as well as other matters of human life. I think this is what Imam Ghazali, that he has done amazing work. It is actually quite impressive work actually, but we should know how to how to learn this in from entire history of his work, because he didn't dedicate one chapter for that. His idea is what we talk, but if you open the book, you will be seeing his ideas where his ideas were distributed in his entire work. I think this is what the extract, the summary of what he has done. We have given you. Hope, inshallah, we will also discuss more in future. All right. Thank you.